You guys know that we've been hosting men only.
Oh, Dannish, you didn't prepare me for this. This one you did not tell me. If you haven't met someone and gotten to know their story, all you have is your own judgment, how you see them, how you judge them. That's the perspective that you have. 9 out of 10 women in commercial sex work are single mothers.
9 out of 10.
I can count at least 3 women who we met that were not mothers. Everyone else is a single mother. I know we have a crisis, a huge crisis of unemployment at the moment. It's already big for people with certificates. Can you imagine how much of a crisis it is for people then who don't have certificates? When we meet, we eat.
Okay.
And you know, for me, that is, at the table, people ask, why do you do that? And I say, when we get to the table, no one is greater than the other. We're all hungry. I am driven by my hunger, and so are you. So we have something that equalizes us.
Welcome to Manspeqtive Africa, and today I'm extremely excited because I'm hosting a lady I've been meaning to host for long. You guys know that we've been hosting men only, but now we're changing direction because I think it's not possible for us to achieve equality if we don't get to collaborate between genders. And of course, we're coming live from Kayana Create. It's a space for female founders. So if you're a woman and you're in business, they have over 250 who are plugged into this community, and you can come and take advantage of the co-working space. You can do your events here. You can have all these fantastic opportunities that they have. And of course, you can follow this conversation on Manspeqtive Africa. That's the hashtag. If you're watching us on YouTube, we are live on KTN Home every Wednesday at 10 p.m. And of course, if you're watching us on KTN, head over to Manspeqtive Africa, which is our YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe. And my guest today will blow your mind. And I'll allow her to introduce herself. Eunice, welcome to Manspeqtive Africa. I don't want to sound like Jeff Koinange.
Thank you.
But welcome to Manspeqtive Africa.
Thank you so much.
I've been meaning to host you for a very long time because I think you do a very important and a fascinating work.
Thank you. First of all, let me say, I think this conversation has been long
overdue. Exactly, over coffee or whatever.
We had a talk many months back.
It was last year, actually. It was 2023.
Oh.
November, thereabout, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's long overdue.
Yes.
But yes, I am Eunice Mathu, and I am the founder and director of Rejesha Project Nairobi.
Okay.
Many things. I am a sister, an aunt, so many other things, friend, and I can say I am just excited to be here.
All right. The Rejesha Project is a very interesting project, and I like it particularly because, first of all, of the story behind it. So perhaps for our audience, what is Rejesha Project Nairobi?
So Rejesha Project is an organization dedicated to empowering and equipping women and girls in commercial sex work here in our city. So I don't know whether you know this, Dannish. There are over 40,000 women in commercial sex work, just in Nairobi alone. This is not a
40,000.
Over 40,000.
Wow.
So we don't even know how many there are in the entire country, but in Nairobi, that's the number. So that is a huge number. And for me, I believe that this is not a choice made freely. It is a choice made out of survival. For at least for the women that we engage with, the women that we have met, we know that from their stories and from what they tell us, this is not something that I woke up, someone woke up one day and decided, you know what? I could do so many other things,
except this.
But this is what I'm going to choose. I know there will be so many people who will differ, and that is fine. I think for us as Rejesha Project, we are not here to try and convince other people. If you have a different perspective, that's still fine. We can agree to disagree, but at least for the women that we serve, we know their stories and we've come to know them, and we want to support them and empower them. So we do so many things.
Okay.
First of all, how we meet these ladies is on Saturday nights.
Wow.
So yes, some Saturday nights I will be on Koinange Street or surrounding areas. Okay. We have an outreach, and that's how we get to meet with the women. That's how we connect with them on a regular basis. This is mostly led by volunteers, and we're just so blessed to have so many people who want to serve and want to engage with our program. And this is a very, very good way to engage. So Saturday nights, we eat together. We adopted the model of Jesus of doing the gospel through food and at the table.
When we eat, when we meet, we eat.
When we meet, we eat.
Okay.
And you know, for me, that is at the table, people ask, why do you do that? And I say, when we get to the table, no one is greater than the other. We're all hungry. I am driven by my hunger, and so are you. So we have something that equalizes us. So we're the same. So it makes it so easy, and so it's a very good way to relate with each other. That's how we began, and we've been doing that to this day. And it's been amazing. We've met so many women through that. But then beyond that, we met so many women who said, I didn't choose this. I'm a single mother. And by the way, 9 out of 10 women in commercial sex work are single mothers.
9 out of 10.
In fact, I would go as far as saying it's more than that, but we can't say 100%. It is, I meet so many women. I think I can count to this day, 5 years since we started, I can count at least 3 women who we met that were not mothers. Everyone else is a single mother.
So this is literally a survival thing.
Yes.
And they've been pushed to a very hard and difficult space that this then becomes the only option that they have. And I think oftentimes we do a lot of disservice to this community because we imagine that, oh, by the way, there's something that is morally problematic with you. That's why you are on the streets. And we don't see ourselves as, you know, by the way, it's not that. How have you dealt with those type of, you know, perspectives, and how do you encounter those? Yeah,
so I think what I would say is, I think we all have biases, and I have been there. I think if you don't know, if you haven't met someone and gotten to know their story, all you have is your own judgment, how you see them, how you judge them. That's the perspective that you have. So I think for a lot of us, majority of us in society, we haven't gotten to a place where we interact with these women on a one-to-one basis. So we judge them, of course, by looking at them on the street corner, and you see how they're dressed, and you automatically judge from your own moral compass.
Exactly,
and you
your
think,
own biases,
Yes.
Could
and
be
your
religion, could be many things,
Why would someone want to choose to be dressed in the way that they are and then do the kind of work that they do? But I think for me, I am driven by wanting to change the narrative that we have about these women. Most of the time I mentioned that they are single mothers, driven by desperation, poverty. If you didn't finish your Form 4 KCSE certificate, you know, you can't really, there isn't so many other jobs that you can go into.
The opportunities are very limited.
They become very, very limited. So a lot of these women don't have that certificate. And then on top of that, you don't have any skills to enter and compete in the job market. So then what do you end up doing? You end up doing the low level kind of like jobs. And even then, they are so saturated. And if you have 3, 4 kids, you're trying to pay rent, you're trying to put them through school, feed them, and do so many other things just like any other household does. So they get to a place where even if they're trying the best that they can, it just doesn't make ends meet. So that's how they end up. For majority of them, they end up on the streets. But there are also those women who have been brought into this lifestyle from when they were very young.
Through trafficking,
Yes. We have women who were trafficked by their own aunts, by their own mothers, when they were 13, 14 years old. So there is nothing else that you gotten to know. This is it. So yes, we do have our own biases. We see the world through our lenses, and a lot of the time, that is through prejudice. But when you get to know the story behind every person, I think we are likely to let go of those biases.
So I'm going to come back to, you know, sort of the environments that creates it necessary for people to find themselves in those kind of situations. And for me, I look at it from a larger context. Not just, that's just one example, but people do many other crazy things just to survive, you know. But walk me through when you go to the streets of Nairobi on Saturday, then what follows after that, and how do you ensure that there's, you know, rehabilitation, and how many people have you guys supported through this process?
Yes. Yeah. So yes, I mentioned our street outreach. We meet so many women who want out. Yeah. And I meet so many women who say, Eunice, I would want to do, in fact, I will do anything. I will clean people's houses. It doesn't matter. I will do whatever it takes because I can't stay here. So from that, we started a program to equip and empower women who want to exit. And I make it very clear, who want to or who exit. Desire. Because you can't force someone. This is not something that you then go around and say, okay, you need to be out of the streets because what you're doing is not good. No, it has to be a personal choice, a desire. For those women, this program has what we have a therapy program with a professional therapist. They get to do 6 weeks group therapy with other women to learn. It's such a good space because then you get to hear what other women have been through. And you think, oh, I thought I was the only one who gone through that. Actually, I'm not alone. Or you meet someone else who's gone through even way harder difficulties in life than you have. So we do that in group therapy and it has been amazing.
I like that because I think what you're doing really is to humanize these women, because oftentimes this type of work dehumanizes them. And so their self-worth, so the dreams they had as a child or the dreams they had when they were younger, so sort of are buried in the rubble of this bad experience they encounter, and you know, and they continue. So, but somebody might ask Eunice, why this job? Of course, in addition to your faith, but why this specific job?
Yes, my faith has a big role to this, because honestly, I didn't pick this. When I was 22 years old, I never thought in a million years that this is what I would be doing. In fact, I was in university doing my psychology degree, and I wanted to become a criminologist. And then I quickly realized that to be a criminologist, I need to be probably seeing dead bodies and blood. And I was like, I can't. That's not for me. So quickly changed careers. No, when it's a very, very long story, but I will make it short. I came to learn about sex tourism and child sex tourism on a holiday to Kilifi. I had gone there with my 2 friends. And we're there. We went to, because it was holiday for me, I want to sightsee, everything that you do. Go to the beach, enjoy whatever you can. You're on holiday. But everywhere we went, me and my 2 friends, two girlfriends, we're being asked. We would go to, whether we went to a club or we went to have a massage, people would be asking, are you here? Are you looking? We can help you look.
How old were you then?
I was 21.
Oh, 21.
Very young, very green. It was a break from university. I was very, very naive because I didn't know what this was. I didn't even know what they were asking. My other 2 friends are a little bit older than me, when one was like 5 or 7 years older than me. So I think they understood what's going on, because I remember being propositioned by an older gentleman, and he was from, I believe he was Italian. And I'm left in charge of our table, and my 2 friends go to the bathroom. We went to a club, so it's in the night. And I think he must have known that I was the youngest of the group, or I don't know. He came to me and just said, hey, you know, you girls, you're amazing, and you can come to my house tomorrow. I have a swimming pool and a big house, and I have a chef. And first of all, I'm thinking, we actually have that.
All that,
where we are. Like, it's not that impressive. But I thought he was being nice. So when my friends come back, and I say to them, and I'm pointing at the guy, and I'm saying, oh, you see that nice gentleman over there, and he's invited us tomorrow. I think my friend almost slapped me. She's like, are you stupid or something?
But it's the innocence of youth, honestly.
I think so.
Nice. Yeah.
I think so. And she said, what exactly do you think we're being invited to go and do? And I'll, wait, what? What is this? Oh, when I tell you, for me, you know, we have those moments where you kind of like your scales from your eyes fall off.
Yeah.
Because then I saw it everywhere. I saw the young girls everywhere we went. I saw them when we went to the club or whatever it was. I wasn't a Christian, by the way, back then, so I can talk about my clubbing life, and it's
also,
fine. I'm very,
is also a safe space.
yes,
Yeah,
I'm very, very open. I'm very open about this
Yeah.
this story. And I would see whenever a car approached, like a bunch of very young girls, sometimes even like 14, 15 years old, would go rush to this car because they want to be picked first. It was a job. I couldn't believe it. And that did not sit right with me.
Yeah.
I went back to class. I'm still in university. And I remember sitting in that class and thinking, I don't like what I've just seen. That disturbed me so much.
Yeah.
And then I was saying, I don't know, but I don't know what I can do. So I thought maybe my psychology one day, I don't know, do I become a therapist and go and use those skills there? But I knew that that was not okay. So that's been the long journey to get to where I am today. From that, I finished my psychology degree and I'm working. And I've really become passionate about the plight of women, different women. I worked in organizations supporting women fleeing domestic violence. And then I ended up to learning about human trafficking and that it exists and just how big it is. There are millions and millions of people enslaved today. So that's the journey got me to working with survivors of human trafficking. And the organization that I was working with was supporting survivors of trafficking from Africa. No.
Oh, Azadi? Okay.
Not that.
The only two local ones I know.
Yes,
Anyway.
it's not a local one.
Okay,
Because at this point, I was actually living and working in the UK.
Okay.
So this is supporting survivors of trafficking from Africa into the UK.
Oh, which I think is massive, especially Africa to
Huge.
Europe. It's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
With the whole immigration crisis. So many people start off as being smuggled into Europe, and somehow along the way, they become victims of trafficking. Actually, so many of them end up becoming victims of human trafficking. But then there are those people who are lured into going to Europe with promises of work. From a village, you're desperate, and someone says, I will get you a job, and I'll actually make sure that you get to Europe. Who would say no to that? That is such a good offer. So a lot of young people, and not just young people, it's anyone. By the way, anyone can become a victim of human trafficking. It's not that you're young or this or that.
Yeah.
But the people that I worked with were mostly lured on the false pretension of there is a job for you and I will pay for everything. And then you get there. And so many young girls working as sex workers on the street corners of London and so many other cities in the world might have been trafficked. Not everyone walks out and just goes and stands there. So it's doing that, and then I meet so many young girls who have been sex workers and were trafficked.
Yeah.
And then I worked with organizations that now worked directly with women, female sex workers. And again, listening to this story, and you understand, this is not a choice made freely.
There's some form of, it's beyond, it's coercion, it's sometimes even illegal. Mostly it's illegal.
Yes, and it is illegal here.
It is illegal
It
here.
is, yeah.
But how was the first night on the streets, or why did you make that decision? On that day when you made that decision, how was your state of mind, and how was it being on the street for the first time doing this actual outreach?
Yeah. I think for me, because for many years I had this dream or this vision that started to grow inside of me. I used to call it started like a very, very tiny mustard seed, all the way from Kilifi. Something was sparked in me. And it was growing and growing and growing. And for some reason, let me be very honest, I trusted so much because I felt this is not my own doing. And I knew this was not me. I wanted to do something completely different. So I knew this is bigger than me. So I trusted God so much in what he wanted me to do. And I remember just saying, I don't even know what you want me to do, whether it's this or whether it's working with survivors of human trafficking. In fact, I did contact Heart, and I wondered whether that could be a place that I would go into. It ended up not being that. there was something God was talking to me about. Find a gap.
Find a gap.
There is a gap somewhere. So if your heart and the whole human trafficking was not going to be that, the gap was on the streets. And that first night for me, as scary as it is, talking to the ladies, and I didn't know what to say. I felt so silly, and I just felt, oh, I can't do this. But what helped me was, for many months, I would go to the city center and sit. There is a Java on Standard Street.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you know it.
I
And
know
it overlooks the streets.
The streets, yeah.
That became almost like my little home. For many months, I would go there and sit there in the evenings. I would bring a book, pretend to be reading, and all I'm doing is I'm trying to see what's happening down below here. So I started observing, and then I would walk around on my own, not talking to anybody, just walk around. And I felt I think over time I felt confident enough, or I felt safe. And one day I realized that the girls sometimes they come and they talk to the security guards. And sometimes the security guard will allow them to change behind the door, because then that gives them a bit of privacy instead of going to change out on the street. Because you have to remember there are no spaces for them to actually go into when they need to change. So when I saw that happening, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe if I approach the security guards first, and I start to understand what's happening here. Even though I had done this work in the UK, I knew it was going to be very different. You can't just think it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
So when I approached, one evening, I went straight to the security guard and I said, okay, so almost like whispering, now this is what I have in mind. Do you think it would be something that we can do? And I spoke to maybe 2 or 3 security guards. I'm like, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. In fact, Mimi, I just look at them and my heart, they're my friends, but I worry for them. And then there was one guy that I spoke to, and he just turned around and he said, wacha taniwaite. Oh, I almost ran away. Because I'm like, okay, now what am I going to say to them? But he called 2 girls over, and I remember talking to them. And then I forgot the mindset of, but they are, what they are. I forgot that. It became a conversation. And then we started chatting, and I asked, so what would that, if we had a program here and we had a space, what would you like? And it was one of the ladies who said, me, in fact, if you brought food, like that would be very helpful, because today I had 50 shillings. And I left that with my eldest so that they can get something to eat. I didn't have anything else. Yeah. So I came to town, and I'm only going to eat after I get my first job. So for a lot of the ladies, if you're hungry and you don't have any money, you wait until you get your first client. Once you're paid, there is usually either those guys who go around with the donuts and chai and coffee, or you walk and try and find the cheapest cheapo you can find, or whatever it is. Yeah. That's when you eat. So that's how even the idea of bringing food to our outreach sort of began. But that was also the journey for me, the first sort of relationships with these the ladies.
You've told me something that I think is definitely heartbreaking, that you come to town for work, and this work is the work of that nature, and so you don't have money to eat. So basically your first client then becomes, how then you get access to food. Yeah. I think that's extremely dehumanizing. And I think it does something to people that I don't think we truly understand, because I think it's much easier to judge and to point a finger when you're not involved and you're not hearing these stories. Yeah. We have all this preconceived perception and stuff like that, Yeah. But I'm interested to know how this has changed who you are, this work that you do. What has shaped who you are at this moment?
That's a deep question. Yeah. And it really has. Yeah. I think coming into this now, okay, so we started in 2019, but then of course COVID happened and things changed. So I often say that we are only about 3 years old, because 2021 was when we were able to do this. So in those years, for me, I remember when I first came in and I thought, oh, I'm going to come in and I'll have all the answers. I am, we all have this in our minds and in our hearts, where sometimes you think, but I'm the one who is loved here, and I will be the one to, I'm the one to come and help the situation.
It's always how we think. Yeah.
I have been taught so many things by these women. They have become so dear to me. Some of these women are like my younger sisters, others are older sisters, and others are old enough to be my mothers. They've taught me how to love and how to have joy. When I sit in this room with the women, and sometimes you listen to them and they have nothing, they're struggling. They really are struggling. But they still have joy. Sometimes I sit back and I think, if you saw this woman laughing, you would believe that she has, her child is very sick at home, or she just lost someone, or she doesn't even know where rent is going to come from. But she's laughing her head off like none of those things exist. Yeah. And here is me, who came in thinking I'm the one with the answers, and quickly realized, actually, no, I am not. Yeah. I'm not.
You're telling me how you went there with, this idea that I know. And I think we do this a lot as people who have some sort of access or privilege, and it might happen differently. It happened when you went to the streets. It might happen when I go to the village and I'm like, oh, I come from the city, I know what rural people need. Or maybe it's people who have a bit of money, and when you go to help the people who might be less privileged, we go there with sometimes an idea that, oh, I know. Yeah. So you're telling me more about that. How else has it changed you? Yeah.
Oh, I think it's helping me find joy in small things. Yeah. I think also has grown my dependency on God. At the very beginning, again, because I thought I'm the one with the answers, I think I was very quick. I was very quick to then think, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is, I think we should do this and we should do that. And we started actually helping women start small businesses. Yeah. And then quickly realized you can't really, you'll be setting them up to fail if you're helping women set up businesses and they have no skills how to run a business. Yeah. And then it's a similar business that look like the other 20 women on the same street. So quickly unlearning that. So a lot of learning from failures, by the way. I feel like this has been a beautiful journey of successes and failure coexisting together, very much so. But for me, as in my character as well, I've learned how to just let God take the reins. And by the way, these are not my women. I say that to God a lot. When I pray, I'm like, God, you see your women. You see what's happening to them. You see all the things that are going on, all the things that are going wrong. They're not mine. All I did was say yes. And I didn't know what I was saying yes to. So I will be fooling myself to think that I can come in and I will be able to do all these things, and then we will eradicate commercial sex work within a couple of years. It has existed. God knows that it is there. God knows each and every of these women individually. He made them. I didn't. He made me. So he knows my limits. And I think that has brought so much freedom to me, actually. Now we do what we can and we celebrate every small win. And I know we will get to the point where we talk about what are some of those wins that we have seen, because we have seen many, so many of them. Small, but others have been mighty wins. So I am learning to celebrate everything.
I like that.
And rest.
I like that.
If there is one thing that I wanted to achieve this year, was to rest better. My only goal for this year was to slow down and just do what I can and let God do the rest. And it has been amazing. And I've now seen so much of what God is doing and allowing me to see of what He's doing. So it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work in the gender-based violence space, and one of the impact it had on me was that I developed some sort of an attitude towards the marriage institution. I was like, I don't think they're good marriages. I mean, if people are suffering out here, what's their need,
Yeah.
What's your attitude of men when you're doing this work? especially every night you hear stories of this man did, this man did, this man did.
Oh, Dannish, you didn't prepare me for this. This one you did not tell me.
I'm sorry.
I think I still have a very, very hopeful and beautiful attitude towards men. And you know why? Because I think I have to make the choice also. There are terrible things happening out there. And a lot of terrible things perpetrated by men. And I hear these stories on a daily basis. I hear stories of women who've been picked up by clients, mostly men. Actually, yeah, a lot of the time it is men. And very, very terrible things have happened to them. You know, we don't believe that women in sex work could be raped. And that happens.
Wow.
Yes, it does. A lot of violence, being beaten. I have picked women beaten black and blue. I didn't even recognize them when I saw them because their faces had been beaten so badly. If not the men who pick them up as clients, it's also the men in authority.
Who own them? Who own sometimes?
Sorry?
I'm told that these spaces, sometimes men also own.
Yes, there are spaces where women are controlled by men. The spaces where we go into are not that space. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
So the spaces where we are in, these women are what we say they are independent. You choose to come to work today, you choose not to, that is your problem. There is nobody saying, hey, you owe me this much and you need to show up. That's the space where we're in.
But I'm also interested to know if you've encountered male sex workers. Yes. And I'm always, because I know there are male sex workers out here.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm also always wondering why they're not on the streets.
They are.
They are on the streets?
Yes. Not where we are.
Okay.
So our program is based around Koinange Street. What was the traditional red light district
of Nairobi?
I know it has changed so much. Koinange Street and surrounding areas. If you go downtown, there are male sex workers. I think if you go down, I need to remember the map of Nairobi very well, but where kind of like Kenya Cinema is, that area, and you keep going, is it Ronald Ngara Street? I think that side of town, there are men sex workers. And how I know that is because we work in collaboration with other organizations. So there's an organization that supports sex workers, female, male, health, sexual and reproductive health.
Rights, yeah.
Yes, they will help them access protective methods, whether it's condoms or other methods. So we work in collaboration with this organization. So I know, and we've visited them, and they would say, yes, this clinic, it's mostly geared toward women. If you go down to this clinic, it's mostly geared towards men. So they are there. I don't have a lot of experience face to face with men. In fact, I really don't have a lot of experience. From what I know there is an organization that has been, I believe it has been set up by a group of men sex workers. And what they're trying to do is also to build their economic empowerment. So I know they have almost like similar programs to what we have. They have economic empowerment. They also, I think, have some form of mental health support. Yeah. So I know that there are groups that exist, but I don't know whether I can speak so much into it.
I get that.
Yeah.
But you told me that you've worked with one male sex worker.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at the very, very beginning, this must have been end of 2019, very early on 2020, just before COVID. And we've only managed to do like a few outreaches before COVID came. There is a guy who came in, but was dressed as a woman. So in fact, we were a bit confused. We didn't know. And then of course, this is a very touchy subject. So you don't really know what do I do? How do I approach it? But I remember he came in once, ate with us, was in that space, but we never saw him again. So I don't think we have met and encountered anymore.
Yeah, because I mean, I know that there are many male sex workers, especially, I mean, not just the LGBTQI and that, but also there are male sex workers who are not heterosexual in nature.
Yes.
But I've just always been like, could it be a power thing? But anyway, we don't want to get into conjecture and stuff like that, so we're going to stick to facts. All right, at the beginning you said that you don't really care. I mean, you're not convincing people to believe in the work that you do. But there are people who are saying that sometimes these things are a matter of choice.
Yeah.
How do you understand that, the part of choice in this space that you are in?
I like that question. I like to pose a question to people when I'm speaking to, whether it's small groups or large groups of people, and I like to pause and say, for us who perhaps who've never thought about that element of choice, and I say, when you were choosing your career, and I'm going to ask you the question, when you were in high school or university and you were choosing your career choices, and I would imagine perhaps there was media there was so many other things. And for me, I remember thinking, oh, I want to be a psychologist, I want to be a criminologist. I had this dream that one day I could be a professor. I don't know why. There were so many things that I could choose from. Why is it that I never found sex work on that list? It was not on my list.
Nobody ever grows up saying, I want to be a commercial sex worker someday.
Or it is not a list of work. I know even for those who say, but it is just work. But it's not, it never appeared on my list of these are the things that I could be. These are the careers that I could go into. So for me, I challenge that element of choice. And it's okay. If I say I think we're not here to convince people who say, but there are those who want to stay and there are those who believe in what they're doing. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But there are those who have been forced into it because they didn't have any other choices to make. It becomes a choice for people who don't have any other economic choices to make. It's not a choice for the rest of us who are privileged enough to go to university or go to college or have your Form 4 certificate. It's not a choice for you, because then you could do so many other things. But for people who do not have that, and this is the only thing that they can choose from, is it a choice?
Yeah, it's not really a choice. And I think, because you're a psychologist, so I can mention this concept which we don't truly understand in this country, what we call adverse childhood experiences. And how some of these things we go through in our younger years have like a lifelong impact, including the choices that we make. So you think you have some sort of autonomy to make choices, but the experiences you've gone through have somehow limited your choices, that the ones you have are not the most favorable one. But you gotta do what you got to do. Maybe perhaps when you interact with these ladies, would you say that, you know, the environment that we raise our children in fundamentally has some bearing on how they turn out, in terms of not how they turn out in a character perspective, but the choices that they choose ultimately in the long run?
Absolutely. Yes. So of course, the formative years of a child are so important, and they play such a huge role. Who mentored you when you were growing up? Who encouraged you to seek career in different spaces? Who saw a light in you and encouraged you and said, I see something different in you? That plays such a huge role. The teachers that you were surrounded with. So for the ladies that I engage with, a lot of the times that never happened. They never got that.
And I think you mentioned that Nairobi alone has about 40,000 estimated commercial sex workers. And we need to think about it from the broader context of affirmative action and equal opportunities, because, you know, if education has barriers and job entry has barriers, and then there's what we call, you know, teenage pregnancy, which is a crisis, you know, then we're not seeing how that eventually ends up disenfranchising a part of the community. But what many of us don't see is that for every woman who's not gainfully employed, there's already an economic aspect of that to our communities. Either it's through cash transfers that we do, or through black tax, or through, there's a long-term impact of ignoring an entire population and letting them out. Because now there's all this conversation, which I personally don't like to amplify, that, oh, the boy child has been forgotten. It's like we're being made to compete. But we're not seeing that a win for Eunice or a win for a lady who's out of the street. It's a win for Kenya. It's a win for our community. Our communities become healthier and better when all of us are thriving and are doing better. Final question before we end this conversation. The government calls you today and says, Eunice, we are giving you carte blanche in terms of a policy recommendation. Let us know, what do we do to fix this issue? And of course, mtu wetu wa kutenga can say that, how do you what are some of the policy, how do you go about it? Let's not even talk about policy. How do you go about it?
Yeah. So we have this thing, you're talking in the right language, because we have this thing that we call the cycle of vicious cycle of poverty and also of sex work.
Okay.
So for sex workers, it's all those things that I have named: single mother, no education or no certificate, no skills to enter and compete in the job market. You come into work, you're arrested a lot by the city council officers. So then that leaves you in a cycle of debt, because you're arrested and you're being asked to pay
bail and
500 shillings. No, sometimes it's nimekushika, I need 500 shillings now, nikuachilie. Like I'm holding your hand. It's just, it's
very
as bad as
transactional,
that.
like that, yeah.
Yes. So if you arrest them and they don't have that 500 shillings, what are they going to do? Call. So you enter the van and you have to call around until you get the money. And sometimes as the van is moving, it then moves to 1,000 shillings. So there is not even a set amount of, oh, you've been arrested for this and that. This is what the law requires that you pay to get out. So you're then living in a cycle of debt. You didn't have that money, you borrow it, so that's more debt. You need to come out tomorrow, pay the debt that you owe, and also now recover, because you needed to pay rent and feed your children. So that cycle exists for that reason. For me, sitting down with governments, and some of the things that we talk about is, one, can we understand how these women are ending up where they are? Are we able to have, and I know we have a crisis, a huge crisis of unemployment at the moment, but it's even bigger. It's already big for people with certificates. Can you imagine how much of a crisis it is for people then who don't have certificates? So some of the policies that we can have are, can we have rehabilitative schemes that allow people who are not able to complete their education to then do skills development? When we do our skills development, these women are awesome. I think we need to stop eliminating them out of that, because you didn't have a high school education, then people just treat you as, oh, you're dumb, and that's it. We need to have skills development that is properly set up. And then through that, these women can then go to jobs that are, well, by people who can understand where they've come from and people who allow them to learn and grow. That is what we are trying to set up. That's what our program looks like. We do the skills development training, and then we've asked people to partner with us. If you're an employer, a local businessman, can you give us certain jobs in your organization? We will give these women the skills they need. They might not come fully baked, but they will come knowing how to communicate, knowing how to interact with people, knowing how to show up on time, knowing how to, whether it's customer service, so many of those soft skills, we train them in our job skills training. And we ask people to then allow them to take up jobs and train them, give them us, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, train them. We need that from a government level, because this is huge. I'm only one person. There's only so much I can do. And there are 40,000 plus just in Nairobi alone. Can you imagine now what the state of the nation looks like? So I cannot be able to do this for so many women on my own. We do need government partnerships. There are so many ways that governments are able to create job opportunities for these ladies. And then also let's stop the harassments and arrests, because all that does, it just perpetuates the cycle that they're already in. And then now you actually add debt onto it. This person will never be able to get out.
But as Dr. Wandia Njoya always says that, violence begets violence. And of course, that's the language of the state. Sometimes that, that's it. And so we've come to an end of, I think, what is extremely an eye-opening conversation, but also moving, and I think deeply, actually, we've managed to help us deal with a very delicate conversation, but in a very graceful way, you know. People out here would like to support you. How do they get to reach you?
Oh, yes. And I hope that we can put our details
Just
somewhere on the screen.
Details.
Yes. So on social media, we are Rejesha Project, or we have a website, www.rejeshaprojectnairobi.org. If you want to directly contact us, we have an email address, and that is info@rejeshaprojectnairobi.org. We will put all the details here so that people can see them. It's quite a mouthful. And I would love to hear from people. I think for me, I don't like to end without saying, all of us have a role to play. It's not a Eunice problem. It is not a one-person problem. There are so many things that we can do. And I am often saying to people, partner with us. Come and help us, help the women who are trying to exit this work. We need financial support. We can't do this without financial support. Come and support the women who are going through a therapy program. That space is so, so important. We get to undo the trauma, and we start a journey of healing from the past traumas. We need financial support for that. And I like to say, it only takes 1,000 bob a month to support a woman go through this whole process, go through the counseling support. And it's 5,000 a month to help a woman who is exiting sex work be able to do so. So it's not a huge lot. Anyone can play a part. And for us, we will take anything, whatever. We will make it work.
All right. You've heard us, by the way, that for 5,000 shillings a month, you can support a woman who's exiting commercial sex work. For 1,000 a month, you can support them, you know. And of course, check the Rejesha Project Nairobi. They're doing amazing work, and I'm grateful that we go to the same church. And many people often bash Christianity, and they say, oh, churches nowadays, but then there are churches that are really doing work like this, and I think we need to amplify most of those. And of course, you can let us know what you think about this conversation. The hashtag is Manspeqtive Africa. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Manspeqtive Africa. The Manspeqtive has a Q. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, we are live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on KTN. And KTN, they've rebranded. They're doing amazing work now. There's content home, there's news, there's entertainment there. All this sort of stuff that have been put together. The KTN that we grew up watching is now back, and there's now one fold. We're coming live from Kayana Create. It is a co-working space for women as MSME owners, and you can come and plug in here. Either you can get a co-working space, you can have an event space here, you can have your meetings here, but above all else, you get to get a tribe of women who are doing what you do, and you get to plug with them. And I love it, because Manspeqtive was mostly hosting men, and now we are hosting women, and I'm glad that we're breaking that tradition, and we're doing it from the Kayana Create. Until next time, my name is Dannish Odongo. Adios, and may God bless you, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and let us know how this conversation is.